I'm going to start this video with a little bit of honesty. I was completely and utterly overwhelmed when I sat down and started doing the research for this Citroen DS. I knew they were a special car, but I wasn't quite prepared for just how groundbreaking and just incredible this thing is, given that it was first released in 1955, which is 70 years ago, sold for 20 years until 1975, and as a millennial, someone who grew up in the 90s, born in the late 80s, these things, they were already gone by the time I was born. This particular car, in this stunning blue colour, is a 1971 with its third generation with these covered headlights. It was voted the #1 prettiest car ever made by a panel of people that included people like Ian Callum, who designed the Aston Martin DB7, which was always my favourite looking car, but I can see where they're coming from because from any angle this car is just absolutely incredible to look at. My dad, who was born in '47, said to me that he was just gawping through a glass window when this car came out. He was 8 years old. He couldn't believe what he was looking at. It was aerodynamic, so that's a thing that people didn't really care about back then, but Citroen did. It teardrops off into the back, and then you've got the covered rear wheels. It's the first mass-produced car with hydro pneumatic suspension, which means you can adjust the ride height, and also it's self-leveling. And it does it all without any electronics. It's all a mechanical system. It had disc brakes at the front, which basically no other mass-produced car had until this time. In later models, the headlights would turn and follow the steering wheel, so when you went around a corner, the lights would look around the corner, and that's just not a thing that cars have had until very recently. It also had double wishbone suspension, which is something you only really get on sports cars. Yes, the DS was front-wheel drive. Back in the 50s, most things were rear-wheel drive. We had previously the Citroen Traction Avant, which literally meant front-wheel drive, and that was one of the very first. That's what this car replaced. The Traction Avant was a pretty cool-looking car, actually, but very old-fashioned by the time this Spaceship landed and took over. So this car is a 1971 D Super, which was basically a high-spec version of a low-spec version of the DS. It used to be known as the ID, but then in the early 70s they changed it to the D Super and the D Special. And that actually meant the car was slightly more simple because the hydro pneumatic suspension actually powered the clutch in the semi-automatic gearbox. Yes, that's right, a semi-automatic gearbox in 1955. Basically meant you didn't have a clutch pedal, but you still had to change the gear with your hand. Now this car is a 5-speed manual because it was the simpler version. Citroen kind of introduced the idea of a crumple zone, which is something that we take for granted now, but this part of the car here was designed to absorb some of the force of an accident and crumple up to the then fairly solid and rigid passenger cell. The car was designed around radial tyres, which again was a first. No car had ever been designed around this modern way of building tyres. Tyres constructed now are still radial. This bonnet is aluminium and the roof is fiberglass. So they were thinking about weight. The weight distribution of this car is all low down in the chassis. These seats, man, they're just absolutely so comfortable. You just sink into them. Although in some ways on first glance this interior is fairly ordinary, it doesn't take long before you start to see all of the weird Citroen quirkiness that made these cars so special. If you start down by your feet, it just looks incredibly complicated. Now, because this is the manual car, I've of course got a clutch pedal, and then I've got a brake pedal, an accelerator pedal very close to each other, which can be a little bit awkward with these big boots on. And then a pedal to apply the handbrake, but also to put the handbrake on, you have to move this lever here. So you basically engage the handbrake and then push it on with the lever. So you've then got a column select gear shift. So if I put that up there like that, that's first, that's second, and that's third. So it's kind of like a normal H pattern, but you have to do it with your right hand in this left-hand drive car. You've got an armrest here, which is adjustable in the sense that it literally just comes out like that, which is quite strange. It's dead spongy, just like the seat material. The adjustable suspension is controlled by a little lever down here, which you lift up or down. You can lower it right to the floor. You can raise it to sort of an off-road, lumpy road ride height. And then you can raise it up to the top to basically jack the car up, and then you can slot this jack onto the sill, and the car is basically designed to be just jacked up without any physical effort from you. And then you can lower the car back down onto the jack, and then the wheel's off the ground, you can change the wheel. So cars back then in the 50s, they weren't quite as dependable as they are now. They made a big point of having all of the warning lights in one of the dials here, with a massive big red stop sign in the middle, which is when your hydraulics fail, it's like, well, that controls everything in this car, so it's time to stop if you've lost your hydraulics. The indicator's on a relatively normal stalk here, but it's very soft and smooth and lovely to use, actually. It doesn't self-cancel, And then on that same indicator stalk, you've also got the horn, which sounds like that. Speedometer in the middle is interesting because it also has the braking distance. This was Citroën again being all about safety. When you're going at a certain speed, it tells you the distance that this car will stop in when you brake. I've got a clock here, a quartz clock by Jaeger, which is working. Next to it has got a little symbol that looks like an explosion, but it's actually the interior light. You've got parking lights next to that, and then the choke, which as a millennial, I knew my parents had a car with a choke when I was younger, but I never really understood how you used it. But obviously, you pull that out to get a little bit more fuel and air into the car when it's cold, on a cold winter's day or whatever, to start it. And then you've got a fan button here, which basically just blasts the interior fan on super high speed. Heated rear screen, which was definitely not a normal feature for a car back in this era. It was a very nice thing to have. Now the single spoke steering wheel, which is very much a Citroën thing, is very strange, but it's cool because it gives you excellent visibility of all the controls, and it was also designed to sort of crumple out the way if you did have an accident in this car, so it wouldn't crush your chest quite so much. Below the clock, you've got the cabin heat, which you can select between sort of hot and cold. You've got whether it's coming up to your face or down to your feet. To the right of that, you've also got the intensity of the airflow and how much you want to let through into the cabin. The rear view mirror is here, which is very odd, but it's because if it was up there, the sloping rear roof line means that you wouldn't actually be able to see out the back of the car. We've also got sun visors, which, that's pretty ordinary, isn't it? No mirror in there or anything, but it can go across the side like that, which is not a thing that many cars did, and it also moves out into the middle. So that's the front, but what's the back like, backseat JJ? Imagine you're going to enjoy this one. Yes, JJ, now we're talking. This is the kind of car that backseat JJ wants. It was the car of the old French president Charles de Gaulle. I think you mean Charles de Gaulle. It was old Charlie G, wasn't it, who was in the back of this. I think he survived an assassination attempt, actually. Managed to get away in the DS while it was riddled full of holes. But I'm just like in pure luxury here. When you sit into this car, your bum sinks right down into this chair, but also your feet sink into this ridiculously spongy flooring. And of course it's flat, there's no central tunnel, because Citroën packaged this car properly as a front-wheel drive car. And this here is ridiculously soft. I mean, why is that soft? I mean, I guess old Charlie G could like kind of chill out here and have a little sleep. That kind of does work, actually. Lovely, big, chunky armrest. Windy windows in front and back, although this car was available with electric windows. If I was a modern car reviewer, I'd probably complain about how far that door opens, which is not very far. What we do notice here is that it's got the old frameless windows, which would have been a very special feature back then. Still is now, actually. We love frameless windows. Along the top here, where the fiberglass roof is kind of attached to the top of the car. Speaking of which, I have got a lot of headroom with this fiberglass roof. There's a kind of like shelf here, and you could store maybe small amounts of drugs or maybe a pen or something behind there. Something I've noticed is it's got absolutely massive thick sills that are like this wide. I feel like that's a bit of a safety feature. Citroën were thinking about side impact protection to a degree. But yeah, I'll enjoy being ferried around in this car, mate. So yeah, back to you. Anyway, that's enough waffle about the inside of the car. We better give it a drive. But I've just noticed on the keys here, we've got the original Citroën dealer keyring, which has like a little hydro-pneumatic accumulator or whatever it is, orb, and it just like, that's so cool. Anyway, we'll get it started. Oh yes, and into life comes the 2 litre 4-cylinder, which is quite a small engine for a big car like this. Yes, it's got power steering. It's a little bit heavy, but it's at lower speeds, but then it lightens up immediately. Of course, you're immediately just on that pillow soft ride. Citroën basically just completed suspension in 1955, and nobody else has ever been able to get anywhere near them since. It's not just the suspension. I'm sat in these seats that you just sink right down into, and it's got nice big chunky tyres as well. I'm going to go over a cattle grid now. You hear it, but you don't really feel it. That's the thing. Like, of course, this car is a car from 1955. This is a 1971 car, but obviously, therefore, not the quietest thing in the world, especially as you go through the revs and up to 3,000, it's a bit noisy, but for its day, it would have been absolutely just above everything else, really, apart from Rolls Royces and stuff like that. That gearbox, now, as I say, in a lot of the cars, it was semi-automatic, but this is manual and takes a bit of getting used to. This car's obviously left-hand drive, and you've got your right hand to use this column shift. when you get up to higher speeds and you're in fifth gear, it's relatively low RPM, like 60 miles an hour, you're under 3,000, so you can still have a conversation with passengers in the car at 60 miles an hour. When you're getting a bit faster than that, 70, it's starting to get quite loud in here. It's just got a normal clutch with a cable. It's not got the hydraulically operated linked to the rest of the system like most of them had. But it's really smooth and really modern feeling. Yeah, it's got a fairly high pedal, but it's easy to be smooth in this car, and that's what you would hope, despite it being really old. It was designed as a luxury car, so it's not just about the suspension, is it? It's about the steering, it's about operation of the controls. The indicator is like really nice to use, really damped and soft, and it doesn't self-cancel. We have to remember that. It's not a fast car. By no means is it fast. I think the 0 to 60 is something around 16 seconds, which is, you know, slow, but it's got some torque, because you can leave this car in a higher gear than you might think. You basically don't need first unless you're stopped. Second is quite happy at very low speeds, and then third is happy at 20 miles an hour. Visibility, of course, is absolutely brilliant, because this A-pillar here is about this thick. You've got like a glass all the way around. You've got a curved windscreen. The brake pedal is quite strange. It's got absolutely no travel whatsoever. It feels like you're pushing on a brick. You have to push quite hard, but then the brakes do kick in, and they are good. Like, they're good for a car of this time. Obviously, it had disc brakes, and by 1971, this car had dual circuit brakes, which of course is a very modern safety feature, and it means that if one circuit fails, you've got another to save your ass. But the reason that it had such small engines, because it could go up, they did up to a 2.3. A lot of them were only 2 litre. That's because of something called horsepower tax. It's basically like a made-up horsepower figure based on the size of the engine. So the smaller the engine, the better. It was happening in France, it was happening in the UK as well, where in America you had 8 litre, whatever, 8 litre Buicks and stuff. In France they had to stick with the smaller engines. Now they were thinking of developing a 6-cylinder flat 6 Citroen. Knew what they were doing with flat engines because of the 2CV, but they never did it, they didn't have the money, so ended up with the conventional 4-cylinder. The nice thing about cruising around in a car like this is that people don't expect you to be going fast. You know, they don't get annoyed at you for holding them up. In fact, they're quite happy to just sit behind you and look at this incredibly stunning car.
Now, we must ask a very important question. Is the 50-plus-year-old Citroen DS, with its ridiculously complex suspension, reliable? Well, why not ask the owner, James, who at 32 years old is a bit of a youth when it comes to your usual DS owner?
First of all, you've done 10,000 miles in it?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
Over 2 years?
Yeah, so 5,000 miles a year.
Has it like left you stranded, or?
Never left me stranded, and it has been exceptionally reliable. I've been to France in it twice now. I've been all over the UK to shows, and very reliable, yeah.
Yeah. Good to hear it, because I know that you also happen to own a Citroen CX.
Oh yeah, we don't mention the CX.
At the moment, not probably because it's a CX, but it's been unreliable.
Yes.
But you also own a Citroen C6, which I've reviewed.
You have, yeah.
So you are potentially a little bit clinically insane owning those 3 cars.
A little bit. Sometimes it does make yourself kind of wonder, how did we get here?
As we drive this car around, everybody looks at it. Everybody's like, what the heck is that? People who know what it is love it. People who don't know what it is just staring at it. Like,
yes.
And it's hard to, you know, like people talk about road noise, wind noise. I think it's mostly engine noise, isn't it?
It is.
Like, that drowns out everything else.
Yes, because the engine is so it's there.
It's right there, yeah. Well, so, I don't know if I've mentioned this before. It's a kind of a front mid-engine. The engine is behind the front wheel.
It shouldn't have this engine. This is a really prehistoric engine, really.
Yeah.
So compared to the rest of the car, the engine's a bit cack. The position of it means if you want to change the last spark plug, there's like a little grommet in the actual bodywork that you have to remove to be able to reach that. That's how far back the engine is.
Right, but the bodywork's easy to remove, right?
But the bodywork
is not quite as bad as it sounds.
Yes, yeah.
So I'll say it again. Incredible. That suspension means it can drive on 3 wheels. You can have a puncture and not even notice. The braking system has a hydraulic servo for assistance and will even send force to the front or rear depending on the angle of the car. It had ergonomics and efficiency throughout its design, including a flat underfloor, and it was the first to use a plastic moulded dashboard. And let's not forget, all this was 70 years ago in 1955. Let me know what else I've missed in the comments, as I'm sure I've only just scratched the surface of this incredible machine.
On that point, thank you so very much for, you know, letting me have this opportunity to drive.
Anytime, hopefully at some point.
So yeah, in the future the CX.
The CX might make an appearance.
If you want to see the review of the Citroen C6, which I highly recommend, I'm just going to put that here in front of my face. And thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.